Hey everybody, it's Dave Dugdale, learningvideo.com. So this is pretty much a review of the Pilotfly H2. I'm going to be comparing it to the old Pilotfly H1 Plus that I own. And I'm going to probably run some comparisons also with the one that's very comparable to the H2. That's the Came TV single. Let's start off with price. Everybody's probably wondering. This one comes in at $988, the H2, which I believe is the exact same price as the Came TV single. All right, let's talk about payloads. The payload on the H2 is 2,200 grams, and the payload on this one I think is 1,200 grams. As you can tell, this is physically smaller and lighter. These are 14-pole motors. These are 22-pole motors. These are a lot stronger. Let me just demonstrate. You can see if I just tap on here, it's the motors are, fighting against me, but watch this. Yeah. And this lens is a 55 mil, which is about the same weight as this 10 to 18. And these are Sony A7, this is an A7S2 body, this is A7R2 body, so they're about the same weight. Payload wise, I'm well below. These cameras, the camera bodies come in around 625 grams, and the lenses are about 250 grams. So I'm well below the payload, and I think that's the way these things work the best is don't max them out. Don't bring them all the way up to like the 2,200 gram payload or the 1,200 gram payload. You just don't want to do it. If you keep it lighter, the motors can do their work better. So comparing these two, right off the bat, I can tell you these motors on the H1 Plus, I just turned it on, but I can start to feel them. They're starting to feel a little warm. These are totally cool to the touch. These will actually get hot. And these encoders, you can see they're physically wider. I think there's an encoder in the motor or something like that. These things just run, like I said, they sip on battery life. One of the other things I want to show you that's really interesting is the different. I'm going to turn these off. Turn this one off, turn this one off. I'm going to rotate this one a little bit this way. Let's rotate this one a little bit this way, and let's turn them back on. Ready? Watch what happens. See how this one kind of returned home to the home position, pointing straight forward, where this one didn't. It's not that big of a deal. I've assigned there's a button on the back, then I can pan it, and then I'm ready to go. But it's just one additional thing that I have to do. This is toolless, and this requires this Allen wrench, which is really a pain. Let me just kind of demonstrate. I'm going to turn these off really quickly. Let's say I make a major adjustment, like you put a new lens on or something like that. To balance this out, it's incredibly quick. You just find the balance point, tighten down, and you're good to go. A lot of times with the Allen wrench, with this, it's, you have to go in and you got to rotate, and there's usually two Allen wrench points that you have to tighten, which is kind of a pain. And sometimes just the act of tightening them can shift the balance a little bit. So you think you got it right, you tighten it, and all of a sudden it's off again. Whereas these, all these axes, every single axis you can adjust. Even the plate, quick release plate that it has a D-ring, so you can actually do it with just your fingers. You don't need any sort of screwdriver or nothing. So going back over about a year ago when I was reviewing the Nebula Light 4000 or whatever it was called, that was kind of like the version 1. And this was kind of like the version 2. And this is definitely like the version 3 with the encoders and everything. The design, the toolless design, the battery life. We've come a long way in 18 months or something like that. And it always kind of worries me. It's like, well, should I sell this H1 Plus and buy this H2 or wait because something new will come out? And it's not only just the hardware, it's the software. Got my laptop here. I was just programming it with this USB cable, and the software keeps getting better. All right, let's not talk about payload, but the actual weight of the device. And this is the bummer part, is the H2 comes in at 1,200 grams, and the H1 Plus, at least on the B&H website, says it's 780 grams. So there's quite a difference in weight. you know, what is the difference? It's a decent lens. It's more than these lenses. These are small. This is a zoom and this is a prime, but that's more than a decent sized lens that you're carrying extra. So what does that mean? If you've watched my second YouTube channel, I published a video. That was maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes long, where I was walking around with the H2 when I first got it. And you'll notice about 8 minutes in, my right arm was starting to get tired, so I transferred over to my left arm. And I walked with my, left arm for a while. With the H1, I don't know exactly what that time is. Maybe it's 15 minutes I can hold it before I transfer it over to my other arm. But I can last longer with this one, obviously. Basically, the rule of thumb is the lighter it is, the smaller it is, the easier it is to pack in my camera bag, the more I'm going to use it. And I've used this a lot. I have a feeling since this has gotten heavier, quite a bit heavier, I might use it less, but the performance of this one is actually better than this one. So I'll actually get smoother shots right off the bat. So let's show you an example. I'm going to show you some footage here. Before I show it to you, I'll just let you know what I had here is I got this metal plate. They're linked the two together, and I just basically pick these up as a unit and I walk with it. It's kind of the acid test is walking with it, because you can see kind of the step motions. Now, I'm not any sort of Devon Supertramp. I haven't been doing glide cam work, or I'm not a paid glide cam operator or whatever. I don't specialize in that. I've been doing this for maybe a year and a half, 2 years with these type of things. So not only you're going to see the performance of these units, but you're going to see the performance of how well I can walk as a ninja, as trying to keep it as steady as possible. So keep that in mind. So on the H1 over here, we've got the A7R2 with the 10-18. And this first test I'm going to show you, I didn't have any sort of 5-axis stabilization. There wasn't any image stabilization on the lens. For this test, you're going to see is the A7S2 on the H2, and I had a 35 millimeter. This is the 55 millimeter. I'm actually filming with the 35 millimeter. That's why. So no image stabilization turned on for this. So you're going to see imperfections. You're going to see imperfections by walking. You're going to see imperfections in these units. So let's go ahead and roll that footage, and you can see what I'm talking about. And as you can see on the left-hand side, the H1 has a bit more jitter. And it's hard to watch both of these at the same time. Your eye is going back and forth and back and forth. So what I'm going to do here is, after this clip is done, I'm going to show you just the H1 footage. And so you can see that kind of the imperfections going on. Again, no image stabilization turned on at all. And you can see there's a lot of imperfections. I'm not doing that great of a job. And it's kind of windy outside, which is kind of making it worse. Now I'm going to show you an example of the H2, and this is with the 10-18. And I believe at this point the image stabilization was turned off. I can't remember, but you can see that's really, really smooth footage. Okay, so here is the image stabilization turned on. And now when you watch this, it's going to be hard to tell the difference between the two, because that 5-axis image stabilization is erasing a lot of those, maybe mistakes that the H1 Plus is having, that the H2 is kind of correcting on its own. So the H2 is just getting better because we've got the 5-axis stabilization help smoothing everything out. All right, let's talk about freak out mode. When I got the Nebula 4000 light, a lot of people refer, it just started freaking out. I'd touch it and it would go blah, and it would go wacky and go all over the place. These don't freak out. This one, as you can see as I'm tapping it, you can see it has a buh. And maybe I'll do some B-roll of a little bit closer. You can see what I'm talking about. But this one's like rock solid. I mean, these motors are so much stronger, and this one is a bit weaker. And actually you can see I can rotate it. It's going to try to correct itself, but it lost step basically. With this one, I mean, it's hard, really hard, and you can see it's coming back up and it's correcting itself. Another difference is this one has limitations. Let me turn it off and I'll show you. Like if I turn this all the way around, you see it has a hard limit, and now I'm going to guess there's cables that are going from the battery up to the unit, and if you rotate it too much, well, going back to the Nebula 4000 light days, it would actually tear the wires off and you'd lose the connection. Whereas this one, let me see if I can, let's go to a faster mode. Yeah, there we go. I've changed the speed on these. Let me see if I can get this out of the way. But you'll notice, hey, the whole thing spins around really fast and you don't break any wires. So this thing actually, like the Came TV single, actually has it detaches, which if you're using a camera bag, which is great. And right here, this is where you would rotate and it would pull apart basically. Another thing is inverted mode. This is the best inverted mode I've ever tried. Basically what you do is you turn it upside down, turn the unit on, hit record, and you start going, which you get some nice low shots. And let me show you some B-roll of following a swimmer back and forth. This is where I held this unit for a half hour. I never put it down. I just trading hands from left to right. So you can hold this for at least a half hour if you're, I don't know, maybe as big and strong as I am. If you're smaller, maybe you can't, I don't know. But watching this B-roll, you can see it works pretty well. It's the best inverted mode. Now, going back to the Came TV single, talking to Frank over there, when I did the review, I haven't talked to him since. I don't know if it does inverted mode yet. Maybe they've changed that policy, but you couldn't get into the software, and the way there was some limitations on the unit, he said it just didn't do inverted mode. Could have changed by now. That was a long time ago since I did that review, but having inverted mode is a very important aspect to me anyway. All right, next up, let's talk about the power switches. This was kind of a fatal flaw, I thought, where they had placed it. It was so easy to turn on, especially coming in and out of the case. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I would put it in the case and all of a sudden it would start vibrating because, you know, this was so easy to turn on. Now this switch, they've done a really good job with it. In fact, it's almost too hard to turn on. In fact, if you're in this position and you try to turn it on this way, it's almost impossible. You have to actually get your fingernail under it, then turn it on, and then it turns on. It's really hard for it to, you know, accidentally turn on and off. I mean, I'm trying right now and it's really hard. To push and turn it off, you almost have to get your fingernail in there, which is great. I thought that was a really good improvement. The next thing that's a big difference, I know you can't see it behind here, but this only has a two-way switch. It's either up or down, and then you can assign it to different things. Like I've assigned it to, you can make it tilt, or I can make it pan. And you can see I've slowed the motors down quite a bit because I don't want to add too much judder. If you're panning too quickly and you want to do a nice smooth pan, you don't want to do it with your tripod, you want to get an electronic pan where it's totally perfect. Turning that down is a great option. Here you can see I can go left and right, but I don't have to change the mode because this one actually has a joystick on it, so I can actually change just about everything without changing modes, which is a nice benefit. Another thing is they had the LED mounted on the back here, which I always put a piece of tape over because it was so loud and annoying. It almost, like, the LED almost hurts your eyes. Whereas they got the LED down here for status. I think it gives you a couple different things. I haven't read the manual that well yet, but I like that they changed the location down there. Another thing this one has that this one doesn't is it has a scale marking similar to the Came TV single. So you can repeat something quite quickly. And also, I'll tell you too, this one, I can just barely mount this particular camera and lens combination. The yaw axis down here, this does not pull back far enough. This is as far back as I can, and I don't have it perfectly balanced, where this has a bit more travel and can handle I guess larger cameras with maybe heavier front-loaded lenses. Now, one of the biggest questions I've had every single time I've done one of these reviews is, Dave, will my Canon 5D Mark III with my 24-70 with an ND filter and all this other stuff, with a Rode VideoMic Pro, will it be able to handle the 2,200 gram weight? I don't know. Really, I mean, just go add it up. You should be able to find all the specs for your camera, your lens, your ND filter, your microphone. Add it all up. My biggest advice to you, again, is don't try to get right at the 2,200 gram limit. I I think you're going to have the most success being like 50, 60, 70% of that number. So these cameras combinations are around the 800 gram, I believe, with this is 625 grams and this is like 250 grams. So we're talking about, I don't know, maybe 850 grams total for these cameras. Which is great for this one because this max payload is 1,200 grams. This one, on the other hand, is 2,200. So being at 800 grams, you're less than half. Can you add more? Sure, you can add more. Are your arms going to be even more tired? Yes. I don't think a 5D Mark III is really well suited for this. Now, one of the things that happens is when you get a really front-loaded camera or like a big heavy lens like a 24-70 is you have to physically keep sliding these back, and as you slide it back farther and farther, I don't know if you can see this or not, but you have this distance right here, this distance. Well, what happens is the eyepiece comes so close to this that when you go to tilt your 5D Mark III or whatever it is, it's going to be hitting the back of this. It's just, that's what's going to happen. If I were you, I'd stop using Canon and buy a Sony or a GH4 or something like that. With the encoder technology, and I hadn't calibrated it correctly. I mean, it came from Taiwan, I believe. They sent it to me directly this is just a review unit. This is a production model unit, by the way, which is great. I had to calibrate it and I incorrectly calibrated it. One of the things I kept doing is I'd turn it on and it would start to list to the side a few degrees. And then it would just stay there and I'd have to correct it, which is kind of a pain. But the guys over there at Pilotfly were great. I just asked him, like, how am I supposed to be calibrating this? Because I don't think I'm doing it right. I sent him a video. He's like, no, you're not doing it right. Do it this way. And I'm like, I did it the way he told me, the proper procedure. If you're interested in those videos, if you follow, I think Pilotfly's YouTube channel, they've got all that stuff there. So if you're having that kind of problem where after you turn it on, it lists to one side, do the proper calibration procedure. Because once I did it, every time I turn it on now, bam, the horizon is nice and level. One other difference between this one and this one is this one, I don't know if you can see it, has exposed wires. I think it's going down to this frame IMU device right here, where this one has no exposed wires whatsoever. In fact, this one has foam on the bottom, which I believe they're passing the wire. They take the foam out, pass the wires through. This one, this arm, no, it does have foam. Okay, that's how they're passing the wires through. So let's talk about some of the specs on this one, since I haven't really covered them yet. So this is a 32-bit triple MCU technology. I'm not sure what that means. I know what the 32-bit means. I believe this one is also, yeah, this one is 32-bit. Back in the Nebula 4000 Lite days, I think that was all 8-bit, if I was not mistaken. So this one's toolless, 360 yaw, no limitation. As we just showed, the H1 does have a limitation. 4-way joystick. This is like a 2-way joystick. This one, detachable handle. It's got 3/4-inch holes. So there's one right here, one down here, and one right here. So if you wanted to mount maybe like a 502 monitor, maybe a microphone, pointing this way, you've got several different mounting points. Whereas this one has one on the bottom, and that's it. So they don't have anything mounted on the sides here. They both have 5 pre-configured profiles, so you can do your normal, follow, and then horizon's locked off, and then everything's locked off. And then usually the 4th and 5th are calibration modes. But maybe I'll just maybe show this to you. I've designed on both of these, if the possibility happens, and it usually does at the worst time when you're out in the field, you don't have any laptop with you or software to configure it. I've set this to be 1, 2, 3, 4. You see how it changed that? Now watch what happens. I can actually change the tilt. So I've assigned the 4 button press to that tilting motion, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm out. So if I'm out in the field, maybe I set all this up at 70 degrees. I've gone outside and it's like 0 degrees Fahrenheit. I have to recalibrate and it's not working. I can always get access to that horizon, get it level, and I'm ready to go. Auto invert mode. So like we talked about before, all you have to do is turn it over, turn the power on, hit record, and get some nice low inverted angles, which is one of these, what this thing does really well is inverted mode. So, and it's totally automatic. You don't have to go into any sort of preset mode, which is fantastic. It says integrated 4S LiPo battery, last up to 26 hours. Again, I'm going to have to trust that they're right on that one, but I've probably used this over 8-10 hours and I haven't really had to charge it. So yeah, I love that. And it's all integrated. It's the came single had the 16,500 batteries, I think were called. There was 3 of them that went in. I believe that they had 3, and then you could recharge them, and it takes forever to recharge them. So having this all in one solution where you don't have to carry an extra battery charger and all that other stuff, it comes with, actually this is the H1 Plus, but the other case is very similar. It's a little bit bigger. It's a little nicer case actually too. If you have one of these, you just plug it in. It turns green once it's done charging. It's red when you first plug it in. If you don't own either one of these and you're looking to buy one and you're pretty strong, H2 is the way to go, I believe. You're going to get better images with this one. Maybe if you're wanting to go lighter and more compact, the H1, they're still selling it. The only thing I would recommend if you do that is to have something like 5-axis stabilization turned on, or have a camera that can do it. If you don't, then I'd definitely get the H2. Now let's say you're own the H1. Should you upgrade? That's the boat I'm in right now. After seeing this footage, I'm like, yeah, I'd love to own this. I don't like the fact that this one, 780 grams, and this one's 1,200 grams. This one's quite a bit heavier. I don't like that. But what I think I'm going to do is wait for NEB, see if anything else comes out. If nothing else comes out at that point, I'll probably put this one up on Craigslist, or let you guys know if anybody's interested in buying my old H1 Plus, let me know. And then I'll probably buy the H2. And like I do with all my reviews, a lot of these, especially the companies from far away in that part of the world, they're always like, just keep it. And I'm like, no, I can't keep it. Like, let me buy it, because I don't want, there be any sort of conflict there. They let me borrow these, which is very nice. They ship them to me for free. I usually either have to ship it to another reviewer or ship it back. Usually when it's Taiwan, I have to ship back to Taiwan. I'd rather ship it to another reviewer in the United States so I can save on shipping. So what if you don't own either one of these and you're thinking about this one versus the Came TV single? My personal preference, I'd rather have this one. It's easier, it's smaller, I guess you could say. It comes in a smaller case. There's no battery charge you have to cart around, because like I said, battery lasts 26 hours. You're good. I mean, that lasts you all weekend of shooting. Man, it actually lasts you multiple days. Like, I've been shooting with this thing for the last, I don't know, couple of weeks or something like that. I haven't charged the battery. So I don't think you have to worry about the battery too much. These encoders are fantastic. Yeah, I would take the H2 over the Came single. They probably have very similar performance. They're both using the same software. They're probably using, I don't know, I could be wrong on this. You're probably using the same encoders or motors. But just the design, the sleekness of this, the way the things are operated. And also, I got to give that, I don't know his name. I think it's Janer. I think that's how you pronounce his name. The guy from Pilotfly. His English is very good, so if you're looking for tech support and you don't want to have that translation kind of issue going on between you and them as you're trying to figure out PID settings. Oh, that's another thing I want to talk about is that very first test I talked about. I didn't touch any PID settings at all. I had to make one minor tweak, but it wasn't the PID settings. And the that footage that you're seeing like right now is stock settings. I didn't have to change anything, and that was with the A7R II with the 10-18 lens, and it worked great. Now, it also works with the heavier 55mm lens, which 55mm is pretty long for a gimbal type of device. Where I ran into problems was with the 35mm. I had to basically create a new profile on here, and I brought down basically the power level and also the P level on that, so it wasn't so powerful because that was such a light lens, and it works fine with the 35mm now. So that's pretty much it. Just to recap, lightweight, maybe not as good a performance, a bit heavier, really good performance, really good design. We're there to keep refining it. I'd say if you know, I've talked about this before, you need a tripod, you need a monopod, depending on what you shoot. And then I think you really need one of these devices. These devices are fantastic. If you need to get from point A to point B, you need to walk, you need to move, you need to, however you're doing your blocking, or whatever type of stuff you're filming. If you're doing documentary or something like that, this is fantastic. That's pretty much it. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.